So in the discourse around talking about The Last of Us 2, it's extremely polarizing, and although I don't think it's nearly as bad as some of y'all think it isn't perfect, but I think that a few simple fixes can get it close. Okay, maybe not close to perfect, but you get what I'm saying. This video isn't going to get into any of the gameplay, although some of the story changes will affect certain gameplay sequences. I'm also not radically changing anything, so if you want Joel to survive, you might as well dip out now. So here's what I would change to make The Last of Us 2's story better. Major spoilers if you couldn't already figure that out yet. I think that the biggest problem with this story is that it's too long to tell the story it wants. The intro is meant to slowly build and get us into the world and the story. Fuck that. Naughty Dog made the choice to kill the main character of the first game and shock the audience, so we're gonna get right to the shits. Instead of starting with Ellie and Jackson, we're starting with Abby tracking Joel down. Now, while I attribute Joel saying his name to him being too comfortable since he's been living in Jackson and doesn't believe that the Fireflies are a thing, I'm going to tweak the scene a little bit by just having Abby recognize Joel since he was in the hospital when her dad died anyway. Also, Tommy is going to be the one to save her, and then they meet up with Joel instead. That way we get the Joel reveal and him getting shot in like the span of 5 minutes. Then we transition to Ellie, and this part is the exact same as before. I think that this change is beneficial because it cuts out a lot of the early hours fat, and it also makes the initial few sequences way more interesting. Now, the biggest and possibly most controversial change, making Joel die even faster notwithstanding, is that I want to make the perspective shift after each day. So you know how you play as Ellie for 3 days and then you play as Abby during those same 3 days? Well, now it's one day as Ellie and then Abby, and back and forth until the ending when time is less structured. This is going to solve the problem of people not being attached to Abby's cast of characters as much because for the player, you just killed them like 3 hours ago. This way, players can get attached to them and it won't be like, oh yeah, I remember you, Ellie beat you to death with a baseball bat. But this change can create an issue, and it's that the constant switching can be annoying as you feel like you're not getting enough time with each character. Even though people are gonna complain about Abby anyway, at least in this version her story is broken up and easier to digest. The second change I want to make is with Lev's character and his whole third day actions. So instead of having him risk his life and Abby's for no reason other than leaving the aquarium so Ellie can kill Mel and Owen, we're gonna move this part up to when they leave for the medicine for Yara. So now day 2 plays out as Ellie goes to kill Abby but ends up killing Owen and Mel just like in the regular version, but Yara tries to fight Ellie, but because she's in pain and her arm is messed up, she dies in the skirmish because of her old wounds. Ellie doesn't actually kill her, but when Abby and Lev come back, they don't know what happened, but they know who to go after. This will also help Lev have a reason to want to go after Ellie too, since he doesn't actually have an active reason in the regular game. Now, you may be thinking, if Owen, Mel, and Yara are killed on the second day and not the third, what was Ellie doing on the second day? What happens on the third day? So, for the second day to keep us on track, only 3 things need to happen. Ellie needs to kill Nora, find the aquarium, and kill everyone there. So, Nora dying needs to be the first thing, as we can make this be the thing that causes Ellie to go to the aquarium. Nora's not going to tell Ellie because that isn't in her character, but that doesn't mean that Ellie can't overhear a conversation between Nora and someone else talking about it. Also, we can make this midday as Ellie and Dina could be listening to the radio and find out that Abby went AWOL and was last seen at the hospital. Then from there, everything plays out the exact same way as it did in the actual game. But now, here's the hard part. Day 3 for both characters have to be altered. For Ellie, it's a little easier because she's still looking for Abby, so we can just have her and Jesse meet up like they did before, and that way we don't have that weird character interaction where he just dips out. I like that scene shows how far Ellie is willing to go to kill Abby, but there are other ways to show that in the gameplay and earlier after she just killed like an entire town of people throughout the game so far. Day 3 for Ellie is gonna have her scope out the stadium that the Wolves are in, see that it's way too much for her to deal with, and coming back to the theater but bumping into Jesse and Tommy. This also helps to lull the player more when day 3 for Ellie ends and Jesse, Dina, and Tommy are all safe in the theater. For Abby's day 3, it's going to be about chasing Ellie down but having to fight through wolves and Seraphites in the city as they start attacking wolf outposts. This can also show that the Seraphites have really strayed away from their beginnings, but it's still not that important to our story. Also, we don't need to see Isaac die. He isn't important to the story at all, and is only in like 3 scenes, and one of them is just him getting shot. So aside from his introduction as the leader of the wolves, that's the only time we have to see him. Day 3 ends the same way, with Jesse dying, Tommy getting away, and Ellie and Abby fighting, but Dina actually helps this time and de-escalates the situation. I really just want Dina to be helpful, that's all. Now, for the Santa Barbara part, I think that this part can largely say the same, except I'm cutting out the part where Ellie got stabbed just because I cannot believe that she just walked that off, fought through hella dudes, and still almost killed Abby. Aside from that, the game ends the exact same way, and while I think that it does suck that Ellie is left alone, I think it works since the entire point of the story is to show how revenge can ruin your life. I'll put the timeline on screen right now just so you can see it better. For the placement of the flashbacks, I would keep them where they are. I think that even with the switch to passing between Ellie and Abby, the flashbacks work to understand the emotions that the characters are feeling at those specific points in the story. I think that the foundation and the ideas in the game are really good for the most part, but I think that because it feels like you're dragging your feet for so long in the game, it takes away from the story. If you have any ideas that can make this story better, or if I missed something that would just destroy the game's continuity, let me know. I'm interested in seeing what ideas you guys might have. Also, if you plan on just saying kill Abby, I'm actually surprised you watched this long. But thanks for watching.